Welcome to First Mover, your first global look at today's action in the Bitcoin, blockchain, and digital asset space. I'm your host, Christine Lee, and joining me are my co-hosts, CoinDesk Managing Editor of Global Capital Markets, Lawrence Lewitinn, and Managing Director of International Content, Emily Parker. Good morning to you, too. We have some solemn news, obviously, today. Good morning, the passing of John McAfee, a influencer in the crypto space, a very controversial figure. And we'll get to that in a little while, but checking in on Bitcoin, the CoinDesk Bitcoin price XBX index is currently trading at $34,000 and change. Bitcoin is slightly down about 4% over the past 24 hours, and the CoinDesk Ether price ETX index right now is at 1975. ETH is down about 1.6% over the day. The most reliable reference prices for institutions since 2014 are now published under the CoinDesk brand, trusted globally as a leader in crypto news, events, and data. So this is certainly our top story of the day. It was shocking news we received last night. John McAfee, antivirus software magnate and crypto evangelist, is dead in what's preliminary being called a suicide in a Barcelona prison. He faced extradition to the United States for tax fraud. He was 75. Emily, certainly a controversial figure, a loss to the crypto community.
Yeah, I think there's two things that are being discussed right now. One, there's a lot of theories floating around Twitter, like what actually happened. Some might be considered conspiracy theories. And then the other is just trying to figure out what his legacy is for the crypto world. So we have an article kind of looking at his impact on crypto. It clearly was a very sizable impact, but I think there's some disagreement about exactly what this legacy entails.
Right. Well, he participated in alleged pump and dump schemes and was paid to promote a number of initial coin offerings without disclosing those payments. But he also, lived with a family situation where his father committed suicide when he was 15 years old, something that McAfee said he woke up with every day. Lawrence, your thoughts when you heard the news?
He was definitely a rather, in many ways, he embodied a lot of crypto from a certain period of time several years ago, when you had the sort of hype and you had this old technology icon come in and join into the scene. He was a libertarian candidate and a libertarian mindset. And that kind of was in many ways what crypto was about. But yeah, I mean, look, there were a lot of things that were questionable with him. Yeah. Not just the tax situation.
Well, he made the sensational promise that he would eat his own penis for if Bitcoin doesn't reach $1 million. And
yeah, we don't know if he ever did that. We don't know if he did in the end. But it's
he later withdrew the promise.
There was also the situation with. Right, but there was murder in Belize that was a question, and there were a lot of things that, and like I said, the embodiment of crypto, because there was so much about him that was troubling and at the same time promising, and that's kind of in many ways what this whole industry is, or at least was. Hopefully, it's gotten a little bit better, but it is in the end a very sad story when anyone does that.
He seemed like a tortured soul, but he embraced the libertarian, freedom-seeking vigor that many people in the crypto space share. All right, let's take a look at our spotlight guest.
The CoinDesk Spotlight is brought to you by Nexo, the place to earn on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and more.
All right, our first guest is a sought-after crypto personality at the helm of a multi-billion-dollar crypto empire that includes crypto exchange FTX, trading firm Alameda Research, and DeFi project Serum. Joining us now is Sam Bankman-Fried. Welcome to the show, Sam. So when you heard the news of John McAfee, we'd love to get your thoughts on, have you met John, or he was involved in the crypto space a while back. What were your thoughts?
I've never met him, and I was a pretty small fry in the crypto space, I think, when he was most active in it. It's a sad story, and I think every piece of it is sort of sad. And I think tortured soul is probably a correct way to phrase some of it. I think with a lot of these things, when you look at sort of the legacy that they leave behind in crypto, there is a little bit of a double-edged sword. And I think that for a number of people who get accused of, bringing too much hype into this space, people end up judging the negative parts about that, but, forget about the good that comes with the bad, and forget about the amount that they move the space forward. I think certainly in sort of the haste to disown Elon Musk after his after his worries, I think there's maybe some of that. I think with McAfee there's some of that, but I also think that he did cross the line. In a number of cases.
Some say in a sign of market maturity, the crypto evangelists posited by McAfee has been replaced by the evangelism of Michael Saylor and you, actually, who serve as better role models.
Yeah, I think so he embodied the time in crypto. I think that's exactly right. I think he embodied a lot of things about 2017 era crypto, and there are some things like there are a lot of things that I'm glad we've moved on from, frankly, as a space. And none of this is necessarily a comment on him as a person. I certainly had a lot of fun watching some of his videos, and found them super interesting, if nothing else. But I do think that the space needed to grow up.
Right. Well, speaking of moving on, you were just in Miami. FTX Arena has overtaken Miami with where the Miami Heat call home. FTX is also striking a sponsorship deal with the Major League Baseball League. So empires are going to wear your crypto exchange's logo. So what was the thinking behind this?
I think, as with all of these things, I think a core piece of context from us is, we feel like we've built some pretty cool products in the space, and have a lot to offer to users. We also were not the first mover. We were sort of the last mover of the major exchanges. We do not have tens of millions of users. And so, a piece of this is we feel like our products are ready, and could bring a lot to the space, and that it's time to get our name out there more. And there are a few partners that can do that to the extent that Major League Baseball can. But then I think another piece, which, I think that the Miami Heat Arena also shared, was just the enthusiasm that we found in the partnership. I've been really, really excited working with MLB on this. They've been really great. They've had a lot of creativity. They've been super encouraging. There are a lot of exciting things that we're working on together with them. And, look, it's one thing to sort of have a specific, and now your logo goes here and you pay this many dollars type deal. And I don't want to necessarily disparage those, but we are way more excited. Well,
what's the aim with all these sponsorship deals? Are you trying to establish a presence in the United States more? Do you hope to, grow your audience and usership here versus in Asia?
That's certainly a piece of it. FTX US is growing. It's a new exchange, but we think there's really high upside there. And we think that we're going to be rolling out products over the next year that are going to be really cool and really unique in the States. And so I do think that's one piece of this. And I think the other piece is, we're here to stay, and we want to become a foundational pillar of the crypto community and of the just broader fintech and financial community. And, I think this is a really compelling way to signal that. That we're going to be here. We're going to be building out. We're going to keep growing what we have. And we're going to keep making things better every day. And that we want to start getting our name out there and our partnerships out there way beyond just the traditional crypto ecosystem, and reaching out to both a lot of the consumers, but a lot of the businesses as well, and the regulators and governments who are starting to tune in more to crypto.
Sam, just to turn to a totally different part of the world. Last time you were on the show, we did talk about China, but since you've been on, it seems like this crackdown, or whatever we call it, is intensifying. And I know that FTX does have a lot of Chinese users. What are you seeing? What are you observing this time? It seems like this time might actually mean business. And are you observing any patterns in your user activity and in anything that suggests that this is different this time around?
Yeah, this one is a little bit different, I think. As with all of these things, I would definitely caution against reading too much into long-term plans. This is, for better or for worse, I think you tend to see the Chinese government acting more nimbly, more quickly, and bouncing back and forth more in terms of their regulatory approaches to things. And I think this is one example of that, where punctuated in the middle of this period, they had some announcements that were very pro-blockchain and pro-crypto. And so I don't think this is best read as like they're trying to get rid of crypto forever. I think very few governments are doing that right now. I think very few see that as feasible. But I do think that they are moving to take a much, much stronger role in what the crypto ecosystem looks like inside of mainland China. I think we've seen much less activity outside of that. I don't think this has been a global approach. But I think the clearest signs of this, one, it looks like a lot of hash rate is in fact actually leaving China. After lots of rumored crackdowns that no one cared about and that had very little impact on hash rate distributions, it's moving now. It's moving
so the real
a lot.
Question is that does appear to be true, but the real question is why, right? So, I mean, I've definitely heard various theories on why China's cracking down on mining. On the one hand, there's like the whole environmental thing, but there definitely are people who say that that's not actually the real reason. This is just part of a larger crackdown on crypto trading, and mining is just part and parcel of that. Well, I'm just curious, what do you think is China's main motivation? Because there's definitely no consensus on this.
Yeah, I tend to not see the Chinese government as acting randomly and sort of like accidentally. And so I think the sort of like, they're just acting against crypto companies. Here's another sector of crypto. It's sort of the same thing. I think that's probably not what's going on. I think they tend to be pretty informed. I think they tend to be pretty careful about what they do and intentional about it in a lot of cases. And so I think like just saying something crypto is something is not enough here. I think, you have to explain why miners in particular. I think there are a few theories I've heard that seem most plausible. One of them, you can explain it, you can talk about it from an environmental standpoint, but I think an energy standpoint is probably the clearer framing of it, which is, it's using a lot of energy, not an enormous amount, but a decent amount. It's been growing. And, I think some of this just like, I don't know, it's not what they want to be spending energy on. I'm not saying that necessarily is the reason, but I think that's one plausible answer here. And I think another thing that people have brought up is that it does give, when you talk about what crypto means in China, it means a lot of different things. And this specific one that it touches on, it's not worries about, consumer protection. Like that doesn't really apply to mining rigs. The place that it might touch more is capital flight. And so I think like one plausible explanation here, is roughly, might have been seen as a way for people to spend resources in mainland to build rigs that produced offshore assets that could be sold offshore for non-RMB and sort of synthetically be offshoring currency. And so I think that's sort of another plausible angle here that they may have been going for.
Sam, we can't talk about capital flight in Asia without talking about Tether. You saw the situation with iron and titanium, or Titan, whatever it's called, the stable coin that went horribly wrong. And you guys are a huge platform for Tether. Tether isn't exactly backed by dollars the way titanium and iron weren't necessarily backed 100% by USDC. How concerned are you of this? And what kind of a situation do you have? What's the arrangement you have with Tether to have so much Tether on your exchange?
Yeah, so I'll give you answers. First answer is way less concerned. And, again, I don't want to sort of like divide the world up into good and evil or anything like that. But I will say that, like, if you told me that one of DAI or Tether blew out their peg tomorrow, I would not hesitate in telling you it was absolutely DAI that did, like 99%. And the reason is that, like, when you compare, for instance, commercial paper to Ethereum as an asset to back something that's supposed to have a fixed asset price of $1, like high grade commercial paper is like pretty close to $1 as far as these things go, right? Like if you want to try and tell me that like you think Tether's worth 99.8 cents instead of $1, go for it. I'm not going to try and argue with you on that one. Like
I think the issue though is, I think the issue is that we actually don't know the grading of the commercial paper. We don't know the quality. We don't know if it's high grade or low grade, or with whom, if it's liquid commercial paper or not. Was it commercial paper? I mean, did you guys issue commercial paper to them to receive Tether? Or we don't even know.
And I think what I'd say is, again, like, I'm not going to be able to prove to you 100% exactly what's there. But I think that there's sort of one version of this, which is like, there's some chance something bad happens, but no particular reason to think of it, which is, I think, what the right prior is here. And there's another, which is like, there's some chance there's something bad here. I'm going to assign a 75% probability to it, which I think is crazy. And so I think what I would push back on there is like, try and be quantitative, right? When you say like, you don't know what's there, I agree. But what are your priors, right? What's your probability? Like, this is all probabilistic. It's all quantitative.
Well, one thing we do know is that Tether, if they were in the Financial Times had a great report on this, and that is, if they were in fact in the commercial paper market, they would have been seen. People who were in the commercial market already, commercial paper market, would have seen that kind of a volume, 60 billion, or actually it's a little bit less than 60 billion. They would have seen that kind of a volume in commercial paper, which is also why it's ringing a lot of alarm bells, is that nobody has actually seen that kind of flow anywhere. And that would have made them a huge player in that market.
Yeah, and look, if your prior is that you're pretty confident Tether is a fraud, this isn't getting convinced you it's not, right? I think it's a bad prior. But if that's the prior you're coming from, sure. If the prior you're coming from is you think they do a reasonable job, although it's often a little bit messy, then I think this shouldn't change your prior from that either. I think this is not a big update in either direction. And, we've been through this so many times with Tether, right? Like, do you remember the freak out about the number of dollars in the Bahamas? And how some people were claiming that proved it was a fraud because they were claiming more dollars in Tether than some official register of something about dollars in the Bahamas did? Like, there's an explanation for that. The answer is, like, the people who were worried about that did not understand the banking relationships involved. It is completely predictable that's how it would look. It is not a worry. That's how, like, those particular types of accounts worked and how they're accounted for and where they would show up on balance sheets. It was, if anything, I think safer than people were expecting, given where things actually were. I think this is another thing where, like, you can speculate all you want. I don't think it's much of an update. I think, like, there's been a lot of empirical evidence that Tether has weathered, the test of history. And again, it's not like they have a track record where you can make 99.99% confident statements about it, right? But it is a sort of track record where if you're predicting 50% doom each year, every single year for the last 6 years look pretty bad for that theory, right? And like every single time someone successfully redeems Tether, and every time Tether makes it through another year without issues, and every time the peg sustains, and every time there fails to be this fatal blow, despite the sort of like billions of dollars that are kind of being spent by the world trying to fight this sort of quixotic fight, that's a Bayesian update, right? It's a Bayesian update that Tether is not fucked in the way that some people think it is, and I think, like, again, I don't want to try and make absolute statements here. I don't, and if you want to, again, I'm not trying to quibble over tens of basis points. But when you're talking about tens of percents, which is sort of what I'm hearing in terms of what the worries are, right? Like, people's real worry is, will a stable coin depeg by 15%, right? I think we've had pretty strong evidence, over time that it hasn't. I think that this is sort of like more of the same from my perspective.
All right. Well, we've heard from Senator Warren, various legislators saying that there could be a bank run. We saw with Titan and Iron that these tokenomics can sometimes be questionable.
But that's a totally different story. Like, algorithmic stablecoins backed by volatile crypto assets absolutely do not survive bank runs. That's a very different thing than Tether, though.
Fair enough. All right. But we've got to wrap it there. Sam, thank you so much for joining us. Safe travels back to Asia. Good. I hope you stay safe and well during your quarantine, and appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you.
Right. That was FTX and Alameda Research CEO Sam Bankman-Fried. Coming up, checking in on Asia and the crypto markets update with crypto analytics firm CoinGecko.
CoinDesk Indexes, the market standard for crypto assets since 2014. Our trusted data powers billions in publicly traded funds. CoinDesk Indexes are the standard used by institutions, and they're the key for investors looking to understand and access crypto markets.
As the company that launched the world's first ever Bitcoin ETF, we at Purpose chose the CoinDesk Bitcoin Price Index, the XBX, to price our assets.
CoinDesk Indexes enabled the early adopters to build crypto investment vehicles, and they're already trusted by a new generation of global investors.
Time now for the daily forecast, an update on what's happening in the Asia crypto markets. Here's Angie Lau of Forecast News.
Welcome to the Daily Forecast, June 24th, 2021. I'm Angie Lau, Editor-in-Chief of Forecast News, covering all things blockchain. Coming up, Korea's Blue House offers its response to the petition calling for its FSC chairman to resign. Bitmain offers relocation assistance to miners, and Lloyd's to take crypto for classic cars. Let's get you up to speed from Asia to the world. Korea's Blue House responds. Well, sort of. The government was forced to issue a response after a national petition calling for the resignation of the Financial Services Commission's chairman, Eun Sung-soo, drew over 200,000 signatures just in 1 month. The petition came after Eun made comments back in April warning younger generation against crypto trading, which infuriated investors. But Korea's government did a bit of a sidestep here. It ignored the actual demand for the chairman's resignation and instead focused on what the government says is doing to support investors, like trying to offer a safety net for younger investors. But it also said that new crypto exchange regulations, which exchanges have to abide by before September 24th, are being designed to make trading safer and more transparent. It seems only a resignation, though, is good enough for Korea's young people to feel heard.
투기로 재산을 형성하고 심한 경쟁이 없던 시절에 치열한 자기 개발 없이 지금 지위에 도달한 그 기성세대가 제조업 중심의 사고로 세상을 바라보기 때문에.
Meanwhile, separate to the petition response, Chairman Eun has been answering questions on crypto from the National Assembly. In that meeting, Eun said that although his earlier remarks may have caused controversy, he still wanted to warn people that if exchanges fail to meet the new requirements by the end of September, the cryptocurrencies they hold will be valueless, as they will be forced to shut down. He also said it's not his job to step in on delisting of small coins from exchanges, as those are private business matters. Korea's FSC chief also is no fan of Elon Musk. When asked whether people can seek damages from Elon Musk for causing havoc with the price of Bitcoin, he said although Musk angers him, there's no way Eun can make him legally responsible for the volatility he's caused. Speaking of Bitcoin, it was down 3.3% at just under $33,000 as of 4 p.m. local Hong Kong time at the end of the Asian trading day. And in the top 10 for cryptocurrencies, a mixed day of trading saw Dogecoin up just under 6% and Cardano up almost 5%. Chinese mining rig maker Bitmain is offering help to miners who want to relocate their operations overseas. The move comes after the clampdown in China led to operations being shut down in several provinces. Now, in a statement on its WeChat account, Bitmain said it will offer a new hub service to help with any maintenance issues. It says that it will allow repair times for equipment returned from overseas to be shortened from 3 weeks to as little as 4 days. After a meeting that gathered crypto mining industry members together in Chengdu, the firm said it would continue to look out for good quality, clean energy resources. Bitmain has also offered to share its experience with overseas company registration, staff recruitment, and operational compliance. And finally, while Elon Musk might not be taking Bitcoin to buy a Tesla right now, you can always go back to the classics. Australia's Lloyd's auction will now take crypto for classic cars. Why? Well, they say it's because more and more people are getting comfortable with the idea.
It seems like there's just a lot more mums and dads and regular people who have cryptocurrency available to be buying things with.
In fact, within hours of starting to offer crypto payments, Lloyd's sold this camper for 100,000 Australian dollars, or about 76,000 US dollars worth of Bitcoin. Using crypto to hit the open road in a world that's increasingly using them more and more. Now that's the real adventure. And that's the daily forecast from our vantage point right here in Asia. For more, visit forecast.news. I'm Editor-in-Chief Angie Lau. Until the next time.
The Crypto Markets Update is presented by Grayscale, the world's largest digital currency asset manager.
Time for a live look at Bitcoin. The CoinDesk Bitcoin Price XBX Index currently at 33,855. Bitcoin is down slightly, about 2.5%. And the CoinDesk Ether Price ETX Index is trading at 1967, below that $2,000 barrier. ETH is down about 2% over the past 24 hours. And joining us now to discuss the crypto markets is Bobby Ong, co-founder and COO of crypto data firm CoinGecko. Welcome to the show, Bobby. So you are in a very unique position to tell us what's the activity, the trading activity going on there. Who's buying, who's selling? We saw Bitcoin fall below 30,000 earlier this week. So we want to know what's happening.
Yeah, I think Sam gave a good overview earlier just now on how the market has. I think it's been a very bearish market from the past couple of months. I think Bitcoin saw how it went from 60K. A lot of people are debating whether we are entering a multi-year bear market or is this a short-term bounce short-term dip before we go back up to 100K before the end of the year. I think the truth is nobody really knows. But I think having any asset going down 50% from its all-time high shows that we are clearly in a bear market. I think for the past 1 month, Bitcoin has been trading within range between $30,000 to $40,000. I think yesterday Bitcoin traded slightly below the $30,000 range, and that was kind of worrying. But I think it's good. It's a good sign that it's kind of pick up from that below 30K range and it's gone back up. But I think it doesn't really surprise me that Bitcoin has been trading between the 30 to 40K range. I think the recent crash earlier in the week to 30K, I think surprised a lot of people, but not really me. So I think the main catalyst for this recent crash was kind of explained earlier with China, the FUD from China. A lot of, I think the big news was crypto leverage trading on derivatives platforms like Huobi. Huobi futures have sort of cut down leverage trading on their platform. So for a lot of Chinese traders, they can't really use anymore, or at least have to trade with lower leverage on the Chinese-based exchanges. I think, and a lot of miners on China, they have to sort of move out. A lot of warnings. Although mining is kind of using a lot of renewables in China, especially in Sichuan province, but this has all been moved out. So we're seeing a great migration of miners from China out to the rest of the world. So it'll be an interesting thing to see, I would say.
I'm really curious, though, what kind of activity are you seeing from whales? Are they buying at this point in time, or institutions? Is there any data you can analyze that shows us what activity they're doing?
Yeah, so I think if you look at the amount of Bitcoin held on exchanges for the past couple of months, so I think which usually signals whether a selling signal or buying signal. So I think the amount of Bitcoin that has been flowing to the exchanges has been increasing from sometime in May onwards, and we've seen the price of Bitcoin going down since then. And I think in the past couple of weeks or so, this has sort of stabilized, and the number of Bitcoin in exchanges inflow has sort of decreased. I think some interesting data points to point out as well is that the amount of large Bitcoin net flow coming out of exchanges there's some 5,000, 7,000 Bitcoin flowing out of exchanges in the past few days. So those are some interesting data points. It shows that some large buyers are coming in, buying in from exchanges like Coinbase and moving them out to core wallets to store them safely. So yeah, these are some of the data points that we're seeing.
Talking about data points, so you have a little bit of an insight into the Asian market and into China specifically. So China is always a bit of a black box because it's very hard to see trading data in China. But I'm wondering, like, since this crackdown has intensified, if you've noticed anything abnormal, like on China OTC. Like one way to get a sense of Chinese trading is looking at Tether, right? Like Tether premiums, Tether discounts. Have you noticed anything like that in the past couple of weeks that would suggest some sort of chilling of trading activity in China?
I think for many people involved in the mining space, like just having to shut down their mines, their mining rigs, shows that they won't have any more revenue coming into their pockets. So there's a lot of, so that's kind of a big thing. I mean, if you kind of have to shut down, and then you may have to pay costs and all, and then just a lot of chaos trying to imagine moving like thousands of rigs and to a different country in Kazakhstan or in some other country, and having to coordinate all these things is just a massive thing. So in terms of OTC, I don't really monitor those markets too closely, but I think the big thing was this Huobi cutting down on leverage trading, which kind of makes sense. I mean, if you look at any markets that kind of grow into a more regulated market, the amount of leverage allows in derivative platforms generally is reduced over time. And yeah, so.
Do you think we're going to see trading moving from China into other parts of Asia, like Japan? I mean, that's what happened in 2017, right? Like when China cracked down in 2017, we saw a lot of trading move, or a lot of crypto activity rather, move to Japan and Korea. Now people are saying it might be Singapore. Are you seeing that happening already, or is that what you predict?
I mean, I would say that trading in Japan are mainly for local Japanese users. I don't think any foreigners are trading on Japanese exchanges. What I would say is that a lot of users are sort of migrating towards offshore exchanges incorporated in offshore jurisdictions like Cayman Islands, BVI, and so on. Nobody really wants to. A lot of people sort of prefer to trade on these platforms. So I think it's just very restrictive. I mean, if you look at the Japanese regulations, like the number of coins that can be traded on Japanese exchanges are very limited. Every coin that is added to an exchange has to be approved by the Japanese FSA. This is the sort of the same arrangement that takes place in the Malaysian market as well. Regulators have to approve tokens that can be traded. So yeah, I think it would be interesting to monitor. Like, I mean, this China FUD has been going on for years, but the Bitcoin market still moves on. I suppose users just find a different way to trade. We don't really have much data yet, but it would be interesting to see how if the Chinese users are sort of migrating towards decentralized exchanges. So that would be an interesting thing to monitor as well.
So following up a little bit on what Christine was saying regarding the institutions and the large players, you mentioned that you've seen some outflows coming, leaving the exchanges. But in terms of average holdings of some of these large accounts, is that going up or down, or is the count of wallets with more than, say, 350 Bitcoin, has that gone up, or 1,000 Bitcoin, has that gone up? In other words, are we seeing any institutions accumulate at all, or are they kind of looking at what's going on right now and saying, oh, maybe now is not a good time to get in?
Bitcoin is a funny asset class, right? When the price goes up, like everybody wants to buy them, but when the price goes down, nobody really wants to buy this thing. Everybody gets scared and disappears from the market. I think Michael Saylor's been like the one real buyer in this market so far. I mean, he's issued a bond raising $600 million, and he's been buying it. I think the average price was $37,000. But even that wasn't enough to kind of stem the decline in the past week. Yeah, it's gone lower despite the $600 million buy from Michael Saylor. I think we haven't really seen many other institutions. I think Elon Musk and Tesla was kind of like the community was hoping that we would see some of the institutions buying in, but I think that hasn't come in yet. So I don't know if other institutions, other companies will be looking to buy in at this point in time, but it doesn't seem very likely. Maybe people are accumulating at this point in time. Let's see.
Just one last question. You know, with the passing of John McAfee, he was known for promoting initial coin offerings and allegedly involved in some pump and dump schemes. I wonder if you could comment on that and whether these risks remain and how investors may be able to address that.
Yeah, I would say this risk definitely is still around. I think crypto is one very scary place. If you don't know your way around very well, like it's very easy to get scammed, to get cheated from your coins, or to be involved in some fraudulent investment schemes. John McAfee, I mean, I'm sorry to hear about his death. It's been a sad case. I mean, he did his best to sort of promote Bitcoin when he was at his prime. But I mean, I think he was kind of tight or strapped for cash, and he was involved with some pretty shady ICO projects to kind of raise money, was using his name to kind of raise funds. And he also made some really outrageous remarks. I mean, kind of made for good entertainment purposes, but a lot of press releases, news, I suppose. But I would say that there's still a lot of scammers going around. We're still seeing, in fact, a lot of scams going around, and I don't think that's going to stop with this. It's just, I think the crypto space needs to get away from being very reliant on certain individuals say. It was John McAfee a few years ago, and then this time around it was Elon Musk. We shouldn't really care what one individual say.
Words to the wise. All right, Bobby, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Appreciate your insights.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right, that was CoinGecko co-founder and COO Bobby Ong. Time now to check in with crypto Twitter with our tweet of the day, and not to stir conspiracy theories, but this tweet from the late John McAfee has Twitter abuzz, saying, "I've collected files on corruption in governments. For the first time, I'm naming names and specifics. I'll begin with a corrupt CIA agent and 2 Bahamian officials coming today. If I'm arrested or disappear, 31 more terabytes of incriminating data will be released to the press." McAfee tweeted this out in 2019, but it would be interesting to see if anything actually does get released, but posthumously. All right, that's it for First Mover. Thank you, Emily Parker and Lawrence Lewitinn. I'm your host, Christine Lee. I'll be back live at 3 p.m. with All About Bitcoin. Coming up at noon is The Hash. You're watching CoinDesk TV.